Yeah, I warned you guys yesterday that I wasn't happy about this breakdown in the market structure, even though it was one whale that broke down the entire market structure. I said to you guys, a lower low is a lower low. And what it seems to be happening now is it seems that the market started to realize this, and we've actually moved into correction territory. We've even gone under $110,000 on a Bitcoin. And that's caused a whole lot of liquidations, almost $1 billion liquidated. But more than that, it's caused a change in sentiment in the market. And now you're getting a whole lot of big names in the market, people that we really respect on the show. People like Peter Brunt saying 30% chance that Bitcoin's top for the cycle. Phil, who's a friend of mine and someone who I respect, he's saying we were $1,500 away from Bitcoin confirming the bull market is over. A drop below 110 and the bull market is 100% over. They're talking about the end of the bull market. Look, guys, the truth is that I don't think that this is anywhere near the end of the bull market, but I do believe that we're into correction territory. And now we're going to talk about this correction and how we're going to deal with this correction, how long it's going to last, what we're going to be buying, when we're going to start buying, because we're not buying now. Do not buy now. Do not buy now. This is not the right time to be buying this correction. I will show you all the data in the show today. Then I want to deal with two pieces of news today. The first piece of news that I want to deal with is I want to deal with the CRO news. That's up 21.64%. I want to deal with that bit of news. And then I want to deal with this news. And when I deal with this news, I like a spoiler alert here. This is all great news for Solana. It's news of new Solana Treasury companies that are going to bring in billions and billions and billions of dollars into the Solana ecosystem. But today, even though this is great news on paper, even though this is great news in what you're looking at here, I'm going to expose the fact that this news is actually a bit of a scam and that this news is not all good. Now, I can tell you when I do expose it, we're going to lose a lot of friends. There are going to be a lot of people that don't want to come on this podcast anymore. But for me, it's between keeping quiet and actually showing you how these Solana Treasury companies are being set up to actually scam you. And unless you know about it, you're not going to land up making any money on it. Or in fact, you're going to land up losing money. I want you guys to actually make money. So I'm going to take a big risk today. I'm going to expose these things, even though it means that a lot of people may not want to come onto our show ever again, even though it means that I'm going to lose a lot of friends in the industry. I think it's worth it to keep the community safe. So massive fucking show today. If ever there was a show to be paying full attention, today's that day. So let's get going, guys. Let's start. Slothman says that it would have been nice to get the CRO news before it pumped. I'm going to show you exactly how you can get that today. I'm literally going to show you how you can get the news before these tokens pump and how you actually can land up making money on it. And you can actually maybe hear it in the background. It's going click, 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 click. I'm going to show you step by step by step how you can actually make money from these things. So literally today is going to be, I think, one of the biggest shows that we've ever done. Guys, if you're here for the first time, welcome. I mean, you came late. Subscribe to the channel as quickly as you can. You can hear there's a lot going on. All these clicks are actually money-making opportunities. Then the next thing that I want you guys to, that I want you guys to do, if you are here, obliterate the like button. Yesterday, within 5 minutes, we had 2,000 concurrent viewers. I'm counting on you guys actually being able to beat yesterday's score before the internet actually went down. So, guys, big day today. All I need you guys to do is really, please subscribe to the channel and just hit the like button because it really gets distribution out there. I'm going to show you everything that you need to know. All right, let's get into everything that you need to know. And let's start off with this Bitcoin break in market structure. I know we said it was just one whale, right? And I know that whale, I told you that regardless of whether it's one whale or 10 whales, for me, the market structure is broken. I had been very confident as long as we stayed above this level over here. But as soon as we put in a lower low, to me, that showed a breakdown of a market structure. And for me, that shows that actually 𝗙𝗘𝗔𝗧𝗪 was right. And we were actually going into correction territory. And I think that now, regardless of what anybody tells you, I think we're actually some way, maybe halfway, maybe just before halfway, maybe just after halfway, we're halfway through this September correction. The only thing is that the September correction actually came before September and caught a lot of people by surprise. And that's why everybody was expecting it in September. And that's why $1 billion worth of longs actually got liquidated yesterday. And the majority of those longs actually got liquidated on ETH Why did the majority of them get liquidated on ETH? Well, now it's actually just flipped. But the reason is because ETH has been the blue-eyed play of the blue-eyed boy of this part of the cycle. And now anybody that was excessively long and bought into all the exuberance of the ETH pump, well, they're starting to get liquidated. Also, if you look at the Hyper Tracker, and this is an application on Coin Market Manager, it shows you the different cohorts and how they're starting to feel. Now, specifically, I'm looking at the money printer cohort. Now, the money printer cohort are the guys that are the most profitable, right? And those guys have started to flip. You see, up until 2 days ago, these guys were extremely bullish. Now they're moving down into moderately bearish or slightly bearish. So what you can see is that there has been a change in overall sentiment in the last 2 days since that one whale flipped us slightly bearish or changed the market structure. This is a very, very powerful tool, by the way. Like I've started to use this tool. It's on app.coinmarketman.com. It's a very powerful tool because it shows you by cohort how people are actually feeling. And that for me is a very, very, very powerful tool because I just follow the big traders, the money makers, and it shows me that, when they flip in sentiment, you probably also want to flip in sentiment. You don't want to wait for all the others to flip in sentiment because as you go down here and you see like the exit liquidity guys or the humble earners or whatever else, you don't want to be flipping in sentiment when they flip. You want to be flipping in sentiment when the smart money actually flips, right? And that's exactly what's going on. We're getting the flip in sentiment because people are starting to realize that maybe the thesis that I presented yesterday is actually correct. And what is that thesis? That thesis is that the September correction doesn't necessarily have to come in September. The September correction actually comes around 480 days after the halving. Now, the problem is because the halvings have been moved slightly left every year. So July was 2016. 2016 was July. Then the 2020 was May. And in 2024, it was April. And when you take all of those halvings and you say, okay, the halving keeps moving 1 month back, it kind of means that the corrections theoretically should also keep moving 1 month back, right? And that's exactly what's happening here. Here we had the big correction in November. Here we had the big correction in September. And now I think the big corrections actually started in August. And that's, I think, pretty much how it's playing out. And so the thing is, what you got to realize is if you just arrived in crypto, you've actually arrived very, very, very late to the party, like very, very, very late to the party. And the truth is that the majority of the big traders, the majority of the smart money, this is the part of the cycle where they're actually going to exit the market, right? If you're just coming in and you're thinking you're going to make life-changing money, I guess you can probably land up making a lot of money in the cycle, but you really have one last correction to do this in. You can only do this with this one last correction that's actually playing out. Because after this correction, as this says here, the end game is unfolding, the structure is clear, 5.35 market cap ceiling, which kind of would make sense. Specifically, when you look at the market cap now, it's $4 trillion. But legends don't buy this wave. Legends actually sell into euphoria. I'm going to show you though how you can still buy this one last correction, and don't buy the one last correction now. Now is not a good time to be buying the one last correction. But you have one last chance to actually buy this cycle. And if you don't buy into this correction at the right time, well, then, to be honest, you're going to be making money in the next cycle. Because as he says here, legends don't buy this wave. They sell into the euphoria. Late bulls won't make it out alive. Now, you have one last chance not to be late. And this is this one correction that we're actually going to be talking about today. So let's actually talk about this last correction and how I think this last correction will actually land up playing out, right? Now, this last correction, I just want to just get us a few charts here. This last correction is nothing new. I mean, it happens every single cycle. I've showed it to you before. It happened in 2021. You can see in 2021, the last correction happened in September. It was a negative 25% correction on Bitcoin. And the good news about these corrections is that usually they happen very, very, very quickly. Now, that's good news and bad news. When they happen quickly, the moves happen incredibly fast. And I want to show this to you here. If we go back to the Bitcoin chart and we go back to 2021, today's show is going to be amazing. I can just hear all the news that's happening. If you look at 2021 and you look at like the first day of the correction took us down 20%. That was the first day of the last correction in 2025. Now, this correction is slightly different. It feels a lot more sober, a lot more subdued. In fact, if we look at what Bitcoin's done in this last in this part of the cycle, or in this last correction, it's actually only come down from its high of 124, 125, and it's now down 12%. And the worst part of the correction was, you could probably say the day that we actually peaked and we went back down, and we went down 5%, right? So it's not playing out as aggressively as the last corrections actually played out. And that kind of makes sense because it's a very different game now. You're playing in a institutional liquidity pool. You're playing with institutional money. Bitcoin has become a much more institutionalized asset. But nonetheless, if you look at the correction that we've experienced so far, we are down about 12.5% on this correction. If you look at how this played out in 2017, from the halving until the top, we had 526 days. And from the bottom of the correction, we had about 35 days until we reached the cycle top. Now, just to put that into perspective for you guys, that would mean that we would peak about the end of September. Can you imagine that this cycle would be over by the end of September? And even if you just take a very, very, very basic breakdown, you're talking about another $1.5 trillion in market cap before that. Same thing happened in 2021. So remember, 2017, 526 days from the halving till the top. 2021, 548 days from the halving till the top. And from the bottom of the last September correction, 50 days, which would put us to the end of October, if we had to follow that cycle, that would take us to the 2021 top. So if we put that information together, we're kind of saying, hold on a second, if this is the last correction, and I'll show you some data now as to why maybe it's not the last correction. But if this is the last correction and the cycle plays out like the cycle is supposed to play out, then you've probably got a week or 2 weeks until the bottom of this correction, and we'll talk about where that bottom is going to be. And then you can extrapolate yourself forward 45 days, more or less, which would take you to exactly the end of October for the end of the cycle. Which means that if you're here now and you're not already fully exposed into the market, you don't actually have much time to get into this market. Because after this correction, if it plays out the way that it plays out, you have 45 days to actually get in, make the money, and get out. That's the main thing. Getting in, making money is cool, but if you don't get out, then, I don't know. What have you done if you haven't got out? So those are the data points that are telling me that the cycle is actually going to be ending pretty soon. I do want to present the other side of the case to you. And the reason I want to present the other side of the case to you is because, it's all very well to try and get clicks and clickbait by telling you, the cycle is going to end. But I want to show you something that happened. In 2021, when the Bitcoin dominance started to drop, the Bitcoin dominance started to drop very, 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 very fast, somewhere around March. And it dropped all the way until the end of May. And that was until the lunar collapse. So if I look back at 2021, and I look at how the structure, the cycle structure is actually different from 2021. What you can see is that in this first run up, the Bitcoin dominance actually dropped. So from here to here, the Bitcoin dominance actually dropped. And that is the period where Total 3 actually shot the lights up and went out. So you can see Total 3 peaked on the 12th of May. And if you look at Bitcoin dominance on the 12th of May, pretty much that's when Bitcoin dominance actually landed up dropping. And when you go to the September part of the cycle, which is here, you can see that the September part of the cycle, the Bitcoin dominance dropped one last time up until here. And so from that point of view, it could be that the cycle gets slightly protracted. In other words, we could get a January or February top. But I've got to work on a base case. And if my base case is wrong, great. At least I'm still in the positions. And so my base case is that this is definitely, or not definitely, this could be the last correction of the cycle. And if this is the last correction of the cycle, I've got to position myself correctly. I've got to start buying. I've got to buy this dip. Because if I don't buy this dip, I might not get an opportunity to buy in correction territory anymore. And when I do land up buying, I'm probably going to land up buying exuberance, and I'm going to probably buy the last part of the cycle where, again, as per this tweet, which I think is quite a profound tweet, where Merlin the trader says, legends don't buy this wave, they sell into the euphoria. So if I don't buy now in this correction, then the time that I actually land up buying is going to be the time that the legends are actually selling. and dumping onto people like me if I don't buy this correction. Now, I want to address, firstly, before we talk about how low this is going to go and when to start buying, because now is not the time to start buying. If you have cash, keep your cash. Actually, if you have some positions that you want to get out of, I think this is a good opportunity for you to get out. And I'll show you why I think it's a great opportunity to actually get out. The market is not scared yet. And the reason why I know the market is not scared yet is because the ETH BTC chart is actually holding a structure, right? If the market was scared, I think the ETH BTC chart would break down. Because right now, people are going, oh, no, don't worry, this is a Bitcoin dip. Now what's going to happen is the following. You're going to get Bitcoin dipping. And right now, everyone's still brave and people aren't scared. But at some point, people are actually going to get really scared. And when they do, there's going to be a massive dump on alts, because what they're going to say is, look, we're comfortable holding ETH. This is a Bitcoin correction. We're comfortable holding ETH. Oh, shit, this market's actually crashing. And when they say, oh, shit, this market's actually crashing, that's when you're going to get the capitulation. And that's when I need you guys. That's when things are going to fall apart, when we're actually going to start buying. But we'll talk about that in a few seconds. I do want to address a few other things before we actually go into the main part. And remember, we are going to address the Solana part at the end of the show. And I'm so nervous to do it because there's like 5 people in the people that I'm going to name today that I actually want to get onto the show. And like, I know they're never going to come on the show after that. Like, I know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So a lot of people have kind of said it's the end of the cycle, and it's people that we respect. In fact, even one of our researchers this morning on the Frontrunners morning call took me a bet, or wanted to take me a bet. I mean, guys, just remind me if there was a bet or wasn't a bet. But he said, look, this could be the end of the cycle. I gave him 5-1 odds that this is not the end of the cycle. But he's not the only one that's calling for the end of the cycle. So Phil is an amazing trader. And he's in panic stations. He's saying, look, we're $1,500 away from confirming the Bitcoin market is actually over. And if you follow his account, again, I say I have a lot of respect for him because he's actually a very good trader. He says, see you in 4 years. The bull market's over if we close 2 days below 110,000. All the idiots with their 5K. Okay, I'm not going to read that, but you kind of get what he's saying. He's not the only one that's saying that, right? Look at Peter Brandt. Peter Brandt says that he said a few days ago, on August 15th, which was 10 days ago before this correction, he said, there is a 30% chance that we've actually topped in this cycle. Now, they're using these charts, which are maybe parallels of these charts over here, right? They're taking the Bitcoin uptrend on the weekly, and they're kind of going, look, there's this trend line that's been going since it's actually been going since about 2016. And Bitcoin failed to break it convincingly. And so now it's going to be the biggest breakdown of all times. And if you look at it on the charts only, I kind of agree with him that, look, there is a chance that the cycle is going to break down. And then, we could go down to like 50s and 60s if their thesis is right. But having been here for multiple cycles, I can tell you that this is not the top of the cycle, because cycle tops do not feel like this. Cycle tops are full of exuberance. Cycle tops are full of euphoria. Cycle tops are full of amazing indicators that tell you that's a cycle top. None of those indicators have flashed for me. And it's not only for me that the indicators haven't flashed. You can kind of see it over here. This is what we call the CBBI. The CBBI is a combination of 9 other indicators, right? And usually when this goes above like 90, 95, that is when the cycle tops. Right now, it's basically indicating that we're in the last part of the cycle, and it's on 77. And that correlates with a whole lot of other measurements, a lot of them of which like people like Ben Cowan are using. So you look at this indicator over here, also telling you the valuation versus the trend line. It doesn't feel as heated as, say, 2017 and 2021. And even if you take a downward sloping trend line from here to here to here, you should get somewhere there before a top. So it doesn't feel right now like we're anywhere near a top. If you look at the YouTube views, retail haven't even arrived yet. You look at fear and greed, we didn't get to extreme greed. You look at the Coinbase ranking on the App Store, we know that the Coinbase app needs to get to like close to number 1 for market tops. We're on 322. Okay, so we're nowhere near the top of the cycle. So anyone who tells you that it's the top of the cycle, give them my number and I'll take them a bet. 5-1 odds was the bet that I was willing to take this morning. Researchers, just tell me in the group, did we take the bet or didn't we? I don't remember what the outcome of the thing was, but it's not a market top. But I do believe that we're about to get a proper correction. And if it doesn't come this week, that's probably what's not going to happen. It's probably going to go up again before we actually get this correction. And this correction is going to bring us down to levels where the market starts actually feeling pain. Because a correction is not a correction until or unless market participants actually start changing their behaviors through feeling some kind of pain. And right now, there's very, very, very little pain on the timeline. What I think is going to happen is, I think Bitcoin is going to break down a little bit further. And as you can see, when you look at charts like the Bitcoin dominance chart, so when you look at a chart like the BTC.D chart, this hasn't started to break upwards properly yet. What's going to happen is, right now people are okay. I think that when Bitcoin breaks the bull market support band, which is at about 108K. So when you look at the bull market support band, I think I've got a chart for us here, and we break below the 107 or 108K. Then the next level of support is this, the SMA 50. And that's at 95. By the time it probably gets, it will be at 98 or 99. So what I think is going to happen, I think in the next couple of days, maybe week or so, we're going to break down below this bull market support band. The market's going to start getting a bit more nervous. We're then going to start heading towards 100K. And I think that the end of the capitulation will actually come at when we break close to the 100K, or maybe even break slightly under, and people realize, shit, we actually can break below the 100K with Bitcoin. And so for me, before I deploy any of my capital into this correction, because I know it's the last correction, I need the ETH price to break down, which is not currently doing, and I need to see some kind of fear in Bitcoin. Now, it might not happen in this leg of the correction. We may bounce and make it to 113 or 114 again. I'm not touching any buying levels this correction until such time as my thesis actually plays out. I'm in the market right now. I'm only going to deploy capital when I think there's real opportunities. Real opportunities are only going to come when there's real fear. Right now, there ain't no real fear. And so I'm not going to start deploying capital yet, right? And the truth is, I want to caution you guys, because you have people like 𝗙𝗘𝗏, who is, he's basically the kingmaker of the market now. He's the 𝗙𝗘𝗏𝗪 of the altcoins, because he's buying ETH and he's raised all this stock market money to buy ETH. And he keeps almost indicating that, don't worry, I'll be there. I'll support you guys. It doesn't work like that. Because when the tide turns, even the biggest whale is going to get washed away. It's simple as that. And so don't buy into this, oh, don't worry, 𝗙𝗏𝗏 will save us. How can ETH go down when all these treasury companies happen? Because let me tell you that no matter how big this whale is right now, he's not going to be able to swim against the market, the tide. I promise you, I've seen this a million times. And he's going to get washed away just like everybody else gets washed away. Right now, for me, is not the time to deploy. Why? We're nowhere in fear and greed. We're in neutral. Neutral is not a time to be deploying. We deploy when there is fear and peak fear, and we take profits when there's greed or peak greed. And that's pretty simply how I'm going to do it. I do believe we're in the midst of a correction. I do believe that we need to let this play out. Maybe it's not going to be the worst correction in the world. Why? Because if you look at the average pullbacks in corrections, you can see that they're getting less and less. So maybe we just go down another 4% on Bitcoin. It's not about how far we go down. It's about the market sentiment. It's about when the altcoin guys actually break down. And right now, the altcoin guys are doing very, very, very well. So if you're not deployed, don't start deploying yet. If you are deployed, look, worst case, we called this incorrectly. The market carries on going up. Great, we're in. But I don't see any bargains on the market right now. And in the last part of the cycle, where you're theoretically on your last cash right now, you want to make sure that you've got good capital. You want to deploy your capital into very, very good things. So that's where I stand in the correction. Now, look, again, I want to get to the next part of the show. But before I do, I have to make a disclaimer. I know that I'm going to be exposing a lot of things around like Solana and people inside Solana that maybe I shouldn't be exposing, but I've got to call a spade a spade. I've got to be the one that says the quiet part out loud. I just have to do it. Before we get to that, I want to just talk about something else. Someone in the beginning of the show said, if only we could have caught this CRO pump when before it actually happened. And the truth is, you could have, and you could have landed up making a shitload of cash. You want to know how much cash you could have made? Well, it's pretty simple, right? This is when we caught the CRO pump. We didn't catch it when the insiders caught it. we literally caught it a millisecond afterwards, and we're in from 0.17, so 17 cents. And I want to show you how we got in, because I think it's important that you understand how this works. So there is a facet of trading which is called news trading. And you can hear my news trading terminal actually shooting off in the background here. Let me actually call up my news trading terminal so you can actually see it. This is what they call a news trading terminal. And every time, let me actually get it up for you guys so that you guys can see it. So let me get it up here. I'm playing with so many windows here. All right, so this is a news trading terminal. What does it do? Effectively, what it does is it updates news in milliseconds from multiple reliable sources. So we have an AI that knows who the reliable sources and who are the unreliable sources, and it filters and it gets you only the reliable sources up on the screen, right? And every time that it beeps, it gives you the news that is actually breaking. Now, I want to just quickly go back to try and find the CRO news when the CRO news actually broke. It was let's just think about how far back the CRO news. You can see there's been a lot of news actually breaking out in the cycle. It was before this. I was actually watching it when it actually broke. And I know the guys. Here we go. So you've got reports of Trump buying CRO. Hold on a second. Let's just go here. I'm going to try and find you the first one. Trump Media Technology will integrate CRO tokens on its Truth Social platform. Trump, you see all the CRO news actually started to break from multiple sources a while back. Here it is. Trump news to acquire $6.42 billion of CRO. Now you can see that news came out. Let's just see when that news came out. That news came out right over here. You see where this little dot is right over here? Now, the way that a news terminal is set up, your trades are pre-programmed in the multiples that you want to trade. And so when the news comes out, it beeps like it's been beeping. And then I want to show you how I'm going to try and get into a trade. I'm going to get out very quickly because I don't actually know if I've got money in this account. But I want to show you something. So as this news came out, what I could have done is just hit this button. Now look, in one click, hey, look at this. Okay, position successfully opened. Now I'm long CRO. Okay, now if I want to sell, because it's negative news, okay, I'm out. Now you get how this is working. This is feeding you news with milliseconds delay. And the way that it's programmed is, look, 342 milliseconds delay from the time this news came out to the time that you got it. And when you want to trade, like let's say I want to trade Bitcoin and ETH because this piece of news was relevant to Bitcoin and ETH and I wanted to buy some Bitcoin, the time for me to get out I'm in. Okay? And it shows me all my open positions and it shows me on the dots exactly where I'm in. And if I want to get out, then I just quickly trade out. That is what you call news trading. And if you are a good news trader, we've got some good news traders on the team. They make life-changing money. Why? Because what they do is they pre-program their trade. You see, like I've pre-programmed my one trade is $1,000. My other trade is $10,000, and I've set them on 10x leverage, right? And I've said market slippage. You can do your own thing. I can change this to $5,000. I'm not going to, because if I do, the problem is that if I do press the button, then I'll go back to terminal. And so now the terminal is reloading my new settings. And as the alpha comes out, with every click, I get an alert. And with every alert, I can take a trade before anybody else takes a trade within milliseconds. And that is what you call news trading. Now, why am I talking to you about news trading today? So we've launched our very own news trading terminal. This is the news trading terminal. It's called 247 Terminal. 247 is a brand for people that are exceptionally 24/7 on all the time and obsessed. If you are that kind of news trader or that kind of crypto person, this is the only tool that you actually need. Because every single bit of news comes here and you can trade. Yeah, bang, I could now trade. There's news that came out. Okay, I'm not going to trade this news. There was another piece of news that I traded earlier. I'll show you the trade. Here is the trade over here. There was a news on Resolve and literally 1.76% in a matter of 3 seconds you can actually end up making. So we've launched our own news terminal. It's called 247 Terminal. And that's what the terminal homepage looks like. You download a terminal, you can actually use the terminal. Normal news terminals, just so you know, cost about $500 or $600, and very, very, very few of them are actually available for retail investors. There's some more news. Should we see what the news is? You see that it becomes addictive. Bang. Every time news comes out, you actually get a duk, 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 duk. It becomes an addictive sound because you know that you actually want to be trading. So we've launched our own news terminal. It's called 247 Terminal. There is a special offer for people who are watching this today. The normal price is $599 a month. However, if you sign up today, you get your first 3 months for $99. You can cancel at any time. And then for as long as you're a member, even if you're a lifetime member, we'll carry on honoring $199 a month, providing that you remain a member. And this is for a terminal that's going to be costing $599. So that's the offer that you guys get today. There's also another offer. If you sign up to Frontrunners today, you get the terminal for 3 months for free, providing you still remain part of Frontrunners. So there's 2 offers for you guys that you can go and use right now to test this amazing, amazing product. I promise you it'll be the most valuable tool that you actually get in terms of making money. Whenever news breaks, you will be able to trade it. And see, I'm addicted to this thing. So now, canary files for staked 𝗧𝗪 ETF. Should we take some 𝗧𝗪? Yeah, let's do it. Bang. I'm in. Let's keep that trade running for the rest of the show, just for shits and giggles. We'll check back at it. We'll check back at it at the end of the show. All right, so you now know what news trading is, and you know how to get it. You can either get it by signing up to terminal, or you can sign up to Frontrunners. If you do on Frontrunners, 3 months free. If you sign up, as long as you remain in Frontrunners. If not, $99 a month for the first 3 months, and then $199 for the rest of your life, as long as the terminal is going. Okay, so that's news trading. Let's talk about news that actually came out, and the news that came out that I actually think is designed to kind of like scam you, if you want to do it. Does it work with stocks? Not yet, but it will. So we've seen some news coming out in the last couple of days. Big news. And the big news is around Solana and all the monstrous treasury companies that are launching on Solana, right? This is from Raj. He says, Solana digital asset treasuries will be the most monstrous and first principles tuned to what makes Solana great. Adding it only takes one epic corner for the race to change the lead. And you can see that there's a lot of very, very, very excited people around the treasuries, the Solana treasury companies. And it's no wonder, because if you look at when ETH actually started moving, it's when we started to see that Wall Street money was starting to come into ETH. When Wall Street money started to come into ETH, that is when the ETH price started moving. And now we're getting big announcements, massive announcements of a lot of Solana treasury companies. Galaxy Digital, Multicoin, and Jump are raising $1 billion for Solana purchases. Pantera is raising $1.25 billion for Solana treasury companies. And then you've got a whole lot of other announcements around Solana treasury companies. And so at face value, this is really, really, really good for Solana, right? Well, not exactly. And that's what I'm going to expose you. I'm going to expose you today. And I'm going to expose it at the risk of losing friends. But, that's what it is. So let's talk about why this is not as good news as it actually seems. If you understand the lay of the land, what you'll remember is as follows. You've got when FTX actually went down in 2021, at the end of the cycle in 2021, what you'll remember is that FTX were holding a lot of FTX tokens, right? And those tokens were locked tokens. So those tokens weren't liquid tokens. They were locked tokens with a vesting schedule. And so what the liquidator had to do was the liquidator had to take the tokens and he had to sell the tokens in their locked state to these buyers, right? And the buyers that went out and bought these tokens bought them at a highly discounted rate because the tokens were actually locked. Okay, so FTX offloaded a giant pile of Solana in sales, and the main 2 buyers that raised vehicles were actually Galaxy and Pantera. Galaxy raised $620 million, and Pantera also raised a lot of money in this. And they sold the Solana tokens at $64 a piece, more or less. And so what you've got is you've got these buyers who went to the FTX liquidator and bought a whole lot of locked tokens. And what they did was they now hold these locked tokens that are unlocking over a long period of time, right? And so the 2 big buyers that I want to talk about today are coincidentally, or maybe not coincidentally, the same buyers that are actually starting treasury vehicles. Galaxy Digital on the one side and Pantera on the other side. This is where the story starts to get a little bit interesting. So you got Galaxy Digital and Pantera, both that bought FTX tokens really cheap from the liquidator. Remember, they bought locked tokens from the liquidator. And now, all of a sudden, they're making announcements that they're launching these massive treasury companies, $1.25 billion. And then this one is another one with $1 billion worth of treasury companies. Let me show you what's happening here so that you guys are smarter than everybody else. What these guys are doing is they are sitting on a bunch of locked tokens. Let me make this a little bit bigger so that you guys can actually see. But they're sitting on a bunch of tokens. Galaxy bought about 25,500 locked Solana at 1.6 billion. I think it's the other way around. I think it's Pantera and Galaxy. Researchers just confirm which is which. I think that Pantera bought more than Galaxy. Anyway, but they bought these locked tokens. They paid about $64 per token. And so they paid like $1.6 billion and $608 million for these tokens. Now, the price today is $190. And so they've actually already, on the unlocked tokens, the tokens that have already unlocked, 31.5% of their tokens are unlocked, they've already pretty much realized their full investment price. The only thing is that they're still sitting on a big packet of unlocked tokens. I think that Galaxy, if I'm not mistaken, it's the other way around. Let's just see who bought what quickly. Pantera, Pantera is looking to raise. Okay, so one is Galaxy, one is Pantera. It doesn't matter. For the purposes, it doesn't matter. If it's wrong, we'll fix it up just now. Research just confirm in the research group that the numbers here are correct. So what you can see is that these guys have already realized they've already got liquid tokens to the value of more or less what their investment was. But the majority of their tokens remain locked. And they start vesting. Some of them will vest in 2025, in 2026. Some of them will vest by 2027. Some of them will vest a bit later. And so the question now is, what are they doing setting up treasury companies? This is what you guys need to understand. The headlines are saying that they're raising $1.25 billion and $1 billion for treasury companies. But what they're actually doing behind the scenes is that they're taking their tokens, which are currently locked, and they are moving them into a treasury company, and they're getting shares that are unlocked. So it's like a genius way of taking locked tokens and being able to get liquidity now. You give your unlocked tokens to the treasury company as part of the raise, and they give you shares that you can sell immediately on the open market. And so you've taken tokens which are locked, and you've created immediate liquidity out of them. That is what's going on here. So yes, there's like a whole lot of headlines. Oh, wow. Raising $1.25 and $1 billion for Solana purchases. No, they're not. No, they're not. They say, okay, researchers say that checked, it's correct. Okay, so they checked, it's correct. Okay. They're taking tokens that are locked and they're putting them in a vehicle as locked tokens. The vehicle is buying the locked tokens from them and giving them liquid shares that they can sell on the market now. I mean, you get what's going on here. They're creating a treasury vehicle for their own tokens and getting liquidity out of their own tokens. So that is the scam that's actually going on. It's not exactly a scam because there's nothing illegal about it. It's just not exactly what it seems, right? Because if you look deeper here, you can see that of the Galaxy Digital, of the $1 billion announced, only 300 million is expected in cash, which means that 700 million is actually locked tokens. And for the Pantera, the 1.2 billion, only 500 is expected in cash, and 750 million is actually locked tokens. Take your locked tokens, give them to a treasury company, get liquid shares that you can sell, and you've got your liquidity immediately, and you've got amazing headlines that you're basically doing all of this. Now, there is one more player in all of this, and this is, I don't know if you guys remember, but I did a show about Joe McCann and how he was supposed to do a digital asset treasury company. And one of the funds that he actually allegedly approached, which you can see here in the tweet, he said, there's another Solana digital asset treasury company that will be backed by huge names in the industry, one VC, one trading firm, and one asset manager. Here it is. One VC, one trading firm, Jump Crypto, and one asset manager. And he says, interestingly enough, that VC passed on my deal because they didn't value treasury companies. But it seems like even though they didn't value treasury companies, they all of a sudden value being part of this treasury company. Why would Multicoin, who was so against being part of digital asset treasury companies, allegedly, because we don't know if it is Multicoin that Joe was talking about, unless we do, and we've spoken to Joe, unless we do. We do. Now you also do. Why would Multicoin be part of this digital asset treasury company, specifically when they were early investors in Solana, and actually most of their tokens are actually unlocked already? So why would Multicoin be part of a digital asset treasury company? You kind of ask yourself, well, hold on a second. All your tokens are unlocked, or the majority of your tokens are unlocked. Here's the unlock schedule over here. And what you can see is that the majority of Multicoin's tokens from being part of the original investor pool, they've already unlocked. So why then is Multicoin Capital doing this? Well, if you're a big holder of Solana tokens, and you can see that all these guys have got massive tokens unlocking in the future, what do you do to make sure that these tokens don't destroy the value of your Solana holding, right? Well, what you do is you put them into a vehicle that isn't forced to sell like a crypto hedge fund. And so if you start a treasury company and you put them into this vehicle, all the tokens that you hold in your fund don't get pushed down in value by the token unlocks. And so you see there's a lot more to these news announcements of these $1 billion. Exactly. 𝗧𝗛𝗧𝗪 says, this way unlocks don't lower the price. You got it. This way, the unlocks go into the treasury vehicle, which isn't going to sell, because that's the job of a treasury vehicle, is not to sell. And that's exactly why you've got this cabal of Galaxy, Pantera, Multicoin, and Jump. Now, look, I mean, truth is, I probably shouldn't be exposing people like this, because these are very, very, very powerful people in the industry. But I mean, can I just watch this? Can I just watch that these guys are doing what they're doing and not like say the quiet part out loud? I mean, come on, that would be completely like unethical or whatever it is. I've got to stick to my credibility, and my credibility says I have to break news like this. And so that's the news. You heard it. I'm very bullish about Solana. I love the tech. I'm also very bullish about Solana treasury vehicles, but I need you guys to make sure that you understand that there's not $1 billion worth of buying coming into Solana and a $700 million or $1.25 billion coming into Solana. That's not happening. This is what's basically happening, and I pretty much showed it to you guys there. All right, let's check in with our news terminal again, because I mean we've missed a whole lot of news while we were talking. Let's quickly just see what the hell's going on here. BAS, Binance Wallet, Smart, okay, tutorial, okay, this is not really news. You see all the news is starting to come out, and you'll keep hearing puck, and then we can just, I'm $1 down on my save position. I'm going to close it, just because I don't really need to have a save position open. And the main thing is, look at the speed. The main thing is that this is optimized for milliseconds. The delay was 180 milliseconds. It just shows you how fast you can actually do all this. Someone says the squeak from your news alert is annoying. Yeah, it's annoying unless you start making money out of it. Yeah. Someone says Rani's Vindicator is called out Solana. Fair play. I've got to call out Solana. Guys, remember, we're setting up a couple of bots. And so in about 20 minutes, there is a Zoom link over here. If you guys want to launch, if you want to join the Zoom, it starts in 20 minutes, 19 minutes. We're going to be setting up bots, including a bot on 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏, because I think there's a good trade here around 𝗏𝗏𝗪𝗏. Also, I mentioned to you guys yesterday that for me, I've been following the Pinex bots, and I've been following the Blowfin bots, the Joseph Lubin and the Bukele bot. Now, for me, I said to you, I think I'm making more money on the Pinex bots. So I said to you today, I'm going to actually close some of my Joseph Lubin bot, because he's actually in profit at the moment. He was 20% down. Like, I'm not ruling him out. This bot can actually end up making money, but here we go. I'm going to actually start reducing my investment here, I want to reduce. So I want to remove some of my okay, so he's still in a trade. I'm going to remove the 42,000. Why? Because I want to use that money for the Pinex bots, because I'm just making so much more money and having so much more fun on the Pinex bots that I'm getting, let me leave 10 grand in here. Let me leave. I'm going to take out 40K and I'm going to leave 10K in here. Okay, so that now is going to go. With the 𝗙𝗘𝗃 bot, I'm going to wait to see how it does when Bitcoin actually goes up. And then I'll decide. Remember, guys, if you want the news terminal, special sign-up offer, $99 for the first 3 months and then $199 a month for as long as you remain a member, even though it's going to be $599. And if you join Frontrunners today, you get 3 months free, providing you stay in Frontrunners. And then you'll be paying $199 for... Actually, no, Frontrunners pay $99. Yeah, Frontrunners pay $99 forever. Jeez, that's a good deal. Also, the Zoom workshop happening in 17 minutes if you want to join. All right, chaps. Look, I hope that I didn't offend anyone. I wanted to bring it to you because you got to be able to see through the... Even though it's Solana, even though it's like my favorite token, I have to break news to you like this. So I'll see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.